I was captured.
It's been 6 days. So, yeah, let's press play,
Deal
smoke
with it
some
in the morning,
weed.
I
Let's
thought.
YouTube.
From what I could piece together from overhearing their conversations, the girls were tourists, but not at all in the traditional sense of the word. They traveled to places as tourists, that much was true, but to save on hotel costs, they break into people's houses when the owners are on holiday. It was a brilliant system, I had to admit. Travel on the cheap, live like queens in rich people's houses without paying for it. I couldn't fault it, except the trouble was that my house was their most recent target. The last stop in their holiday, if I heard them right. They'd been breaking into a string of empty houses down the coast during their 6-month holiday. And to end their little spree, they chose my place. Just my luck, I thought. I learned that her name was Angie, probably short for Angela, since she was so angelic. Ugh, I make myself puke the way I get so cheesy. And the blonde twins that I saw sleeping on my bed that first day were called Sarah and Kara. It was confusing at first, but I could pretty much tell them apart by the second week. Sarah would only call me Hun, and has a softer voice. Kara was more serious, and would always call me Honey. Angela, however, would interchange between the two words. She was also the only one of them who could cook, when she wants to. As soon as I found out, the house was a mess because the girls were always out, and if they weren't, they were so tired or lazy that they didn't have time, energy, or willingness to clean up. On Fridays, they would head to the beach. Angie would charge beachgoers for henna tattoos, and the twins would braid people's hair, or make them custom beaded bracelets for a small fee. That was how they financed their travels. I found that out on the 3rd weekend that they stayed with me, and if I wasn't so annoyed that they were still living in my house, I would have admired them for how enterprising they were. You could say it was partly my fault, maybe. Any normal person would call the police or simply throw them out the first day, I get it. But I simply couldn't. I stutter when I talk to girls. I can barely form a sentence. And as far as the cops are concerned, I wouldn't know how to deal with the drama of having 3 girls dragged away from my property. I just can't handle confrontation. So when they called me Honey, I called them Honey back. When they asked for food, I cooked. When they wanted to go on trips, I took them. When they left a mess, I cleaned after them, and when they went to the beach to earn their keep, I went with them. One Friday, Sarah came up to me as I was reading on the beach, waiting for the girls to finish their work for the day. Hey, Louie, she began. Hun, I was wondering... Yes, I said. She looked up at me with wide eyes as if she was afraid to say what she wanted. Well, I noticed you always took Angie places. Like you'd go on walks with her and such. I'm not jealous, I swear. Could you spend as much time with me too as you do with Angie? Our holiday's almost up, and I would like to go out with you too, hon. She trembled. I almost found it silly how a stranger would feel jealous about something like that. But when I saw how tears were pooling in Sarah's eyes, it melted me. Suddenly I wanted to make this stranger happy. You might be thinking I'm just an awkward guy who's really bad at handling any type of emotion. No, you'd be right. I dropped what I was reading and got on my knees. I'll take you somewhere special tomorrow, I managed to say. Sarah's face lit up and she sniffed back her tears. Bullet dodged, I said to myself. The next morning, I loaded my car's back seat with a picnic basket, a blanket, and a bottle of peach iced tea, Sarah's favorite. We drove to one of the hilltops in the area. It was a small hill that overlooked the town. On top of it, a huge oak tree grew alone, providing us with all the shade we needed. As we finished our sandwiches and tossed our last glass of iced tea, Kara kissed me on the cheek and giggled. I'm gonna miss you, you know, she said, looking away to gaze at a distant town. Miss me? I said stupidly. Yeah, you know, when we go, said Sarah. When you go? Well, Sarah explained, we know we can't stay with you forever. But while we're here, I'm glad I get to spend time with you. And the girls and I are really happy you've been so nice to us. I didn't know what to say. I thought they'd never leave, but now that they are, I somehow felt sad. I'll miss you too, was all I could say. Better get going, Sarah said as she stood up and dusted crumbs off her skirt. The girls must be worried. I could hear a little tremble in Sarah's voice as if she was trying to hold back tears. When we got home, Angie and Kara were waiting for us. Kara's face told me something was wrong. I was about to ask when she told me. "It's not fair," she shouted. "Huh? Wait, what?" I said, confused. "You've taken both of them on dates and you haven't taken me," Kara complained. She was right, of course. And so, later that weekend, I did. And then I took Angie out. And at some point, we all went out on dates together. The funny thing was, I never had a girlfriend before. Then one day, the three of them just showed up and started treating me like I was their boyfriend. The girls ended up staying with me. How? I don't remember. It just happened. Just like how they just happened to me one late summer day. Boy, wasn't I glad they weren't burglars.
You're a superhero, though. You probably do awesome stuff like this all the time.
Fuck off,
Hi,
ads.
I'm Brian, and I'm 23 years old. Today, I'll tell you how I quit my job to go on my first solo trip, which landed me in an abandoned and scary all-girls hostel. But before I tell you my story, please, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to show us your support. So, I was working in an IT company, and was earning quite well for my age. All of my friends were jealous of my salary, and the girls I met wanted to be with me when they came to know how much I was making per year. Even my boss was really proud of me, and saw a future CEO in me. But all this didn't matter, because I was still unhappy. Something about doing a desk job and sitting 9 to 5 in an office all day didn't work for me. I knew there was more to me than being just a corporate slave. But what will I do if I quit my job? It was as if fate was conspiring to give me an answer to this question. One day, while going back home from the office, I met my old friend, Jacob. Jacob and I studied together in school and used to be really good friends. Sadly, we lost touch as we moved to different cities after passing out from school. Jacob and I decided to go to a bar and have a drink together. He asked me what I do, and I told him about my job and how I wasn't very happy with it despite making lots of money. He started smiling and said, "So, I was in the same boat as you. That's when I quit my job." I asked him, "Did that work out for you?" He said, "Of course. I left my job and decided to see the world. I decided to become a traveler. I went on an 8-month trip to Europe and Southeast Asia. It completely changed my life." I couldn't understand the point he was trying to make. Everyone wants to travel and see the world, but that doesn't pay the bills. I asked him, "But how do you earn money?" He told me that he's become a travel photographer. He clicks pictures while traveling and sells them to magazines for a lot of money. I couldn't believe such jobs existed as well. Frankly, I was jealous of him. Here I was, sitting on a chair all day in front of a computer. And then there was Jacob, traveling the world, meeting new people, doing new things, and still making good money. We said goodbye to each other, but I couldn't get his story out of my mind. My job and life looked even worse after talking to him. So I decided even I'll quit my job and travel for a while. I had enough savings and could live comfortably for a while, even if I didn't earn. Then, if I can earn money while traveling by writing blogs or clicking pictures, I'll become a full-time traveler. Otherwise, I'll come back home after my trip ends and will take up a new job. I told this to my boss and he got really sad. He genuinely liked me and thought that I'd do well in his company. But he didn't want to stop me from exploring other opportunities for myself and let me quit the job. While serving my notice period,
What if you could watch videos anywhere, at any time? With YouTube Premium, you can download and go. So you can watch...
I started making my bookings for Europe. I decided I'll begin my trip from Spain and then travel from there to France, Italy, and Germany.
At Pet Barn, we'll help you keep it every day. With safe.
Fuck off, ads.
Shocked. I was inside an abandoned hostel with a criminal. I didn't know what crime she had committed, but it must have been something serious. I
Let's
could
have a
tell from the
joint.
look in her eyes. She then came close to me and held my hand. I went to escape this country so that the police stop chasing me. You marry me and take me to your country? This was quite a weird request. We had met just 5 minutes ago, and now she wanted to marry me. Then another girl came to me and pushed her away. No, he will not marry you. He will marry me and take me home with him. Even I want to run away from the police. I asked her, "Are you a criminal as well?" She started laughing and said, "Don't you know, stupid? Every girl in this hostel is a criminal. That's why we stay in this abandoned building away from all the attention." Then I looked at all the other girls in the room. They were all looking towards me and smiling. I couldn't believe that all of them had committed some pretty serious crimes. That's why they were here. I was feeling afraid for myself now. Felt like a fool that I came to this place. I didn't know what to do. I was stuck in this room with nowhere to escape. These women won't let me leave. That's when I saw a window behind me. It was open, but I knew jumping outside wouldn't be easy, as we were on the first floor. I wish I had any other choice, though. These girls were all walking towards me like zombies, having nothing but marriage on their minds. I had to risk getting hurt. I gathered all my courage and jumped out the window. The girls couldn't believe what I had done. Luckily, despite this, I didn't make any moans. Melissa shouted, "Go outside and catch him!" All the girls ran toward the door to come after me. I started running away. Luckily, I found a taxi driver on the road. I told him, "A very high tip. Just take me to the airport immediately." He agreed. I sat in the car. The girls saw me and started running after the taxi.
Shit.
Luckily, I was able to escape. After this bad experience, I decided to go back home, immediately canceling all my travel plans. My first solo trip turned out to be a nightmare. I'd rather stay in an office all day than inside an abandoned all-girls hostel of criminals.
No, what's now? No, what about... What about... this one?
A swarm of bloodthirsty entities waits outside the protective boundary that surrounds the solar system. They surge through the vacuum of space looking for vulnerabilities in the force field that protects us from their destructive powers. The creatures ran themselves against the barrier again and again, trying to break through. Upon impact, the force field shimmers a golden color and displays a series of thaumaturgical symbols. But it holds. Suddenly, something flies through the protective shield from inside the solar system. It leaves a hole. 2 creatures enter our solar system before the shield closes. This may be the end for humanity. The 6th Overseer sits at a computer terminal massaging the bridge of his nose. He has just logged into the Foundation database to gather information on an anomaly whose intentions are still unknown. The O5 Council wants him to vote on an extreme measure, but he requires more information first. There is something coming. He can feel it. And he thinks it has something to do with SCP-1548. O5-6 straightens his back and sits up in his chair. He logs back into the Foundation database and brings up the entry for SCP-1548. He knows that this SCP has been connected to some odd occurrences recently. But what are its true intentions? Is SCP-1548 trying to help save the universe? Or is it a malicious entity hell-bent on destroying it? O5-6 must find out. He scrolls through the first few entries. SCP-1548 itself is a series of solar phenomena that occur at the south pole of the Sun. During these events, the Sun's plasma morphs into different thaumaturgical symbols. Each symbol is tens of thousands of miles across. The symbols themselves have not all been classified by the Foundation yet. but there are 3 that have been observed multiple times. The first is an unnamed symbol that, when inscribed on a telescopic device by a person with thaumaturgical abilities, can identify psionic entities with malicious intents. The second symbol is known as the Calphastian Isle, which when displayed on a material, strengthens it immensely, and gives it the ability to absorb kinetic and electromagnetic energy. The final symbol is the 12 Holy Owls of Cerinthium. When this symbol is affixed to an object, any entity that is killed by it will immediately annihilate and take everything in its radius with it. O5-6 jots a note on the pad of paper sitting on his desk. He has seen some of these symbols before. They are connected to the Ortuthan mythology. The practitioners of this religion are known as the Church of the Second High-Toth, and are a mix of human and alien entities whose main purpose is to aid the guardian deity of the universe, Rakmu-Leosen, in combating any threat that may try to wipe out this existence. There must be a connection between the Church of the Second High-Toth and SCP-1548, O5-6 thinks. He scrolls back through the SCP-1548 file to the entry logged on May 17, 1983. The first time an event connected to SCP-1548 was recorded. A probe picked up the manifestation of thaumaturgic symbols on the south pole of the sun. It was odd, but nothing other than the manifestation of the symbols seemed to occur. This event was recorded as Extra Normal Event 9008 and logged into the SCP database. The event was all but forgotten until December 23, 2016, when the activity of SCP-1548 really began to pick up. On that day, SCP-1548 began manifesting protection symbols in rapid succession. Over the next few months, a dense cloud of ionized gas formed around the solar system. This ionized wall of radiation surrounded the heliopause, the boundary where the sun's radiation gives way to the vacuum of space. Over time, this cloud became thicker, until no light from outside of the solar system could enter. Foundation censorship protocols were quickly used to disseminate false data, suggesting that the solar system was passing through a dense cloud of cosmic dust, and that was what was altering the night sky and causing the stars to disappear. But as O5-6 continues to scan the files, he knows what the true cause of this phenomenon is. It must be SCP-1548. But why? Is the anomaly trying to protect us from something outside of our solar system, or is it trying to trap humanity within, with no means of escape? O5-6 stands up and stretches. That's enough for today, he says out loud to the empty room. He walks towards the door and reaches for the handle. All of a sudden, sirens start going off and red lights begin to flash. O5-6 spins around and runs back to the computer terminal. An emergency alert begins coming through. The Falcon Light 5 rocket that launched earlier in the day to bring supplies to the International Space Station has spontaneously lost 50% of its mass mid-flight. O5-6 frantically begins typing. He brings up videos from surveillance satellites. The Overseer watches in horror as pieces of debris and bodies of the crew float through the silence of space. The rocket looks like it has been cut directly down the middle, and half of the structure has vanished from existence.
You're a superhero, though. You probably do awesome stuff like this all the time.
What is happening? Suddenly another alert comes in. All communication has been lost with the International Space Station. Without warning, the space station begins broadcasting a series of cognito hazards. O5-6 quickly changes the channel to stop the signal from transmitting through his computer. Reports start coming in from around the world that anyone who continued listening to the cognito hazard signals began entering trances. Then their brain completely evaporated from their skulls. There is a surge of thaumaturgic particles in orbit around the Earth. O5-6 traces the particles back to their source. They came from SCP-1548. The signal from the ISS stops abruptly. The entire space station changes course. It is on a trajectory to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. The friction and heat will rip the space station apart. O5-6 can't believe what is happening. It seems as if SCP-1548 helped humanity in a way by stopping the signals from the ISS. But how can he be sure that SCP-1548 wasn't responsible for the cognito hazards in the first place? He needs more information. 05-6 searches for answers as more anomalies connected to SCP-1548 start occurring around the world. During a political demonstration in Berlin, a thaumaturgic way opens up that leads to a pocket dimension. Soon after, the appearance of the portal, Koru Archpriest Farah Atenas, the leader of the Church of the Second High Talk, makes an announcement. He claims that the way leads to a shelter, which will protect people from the coming doom of the universe. The people in the area, along with the members of the Church of the Second High Talk, make their way into the portal. 2 undercover Foundation agents follow the group. After everyone has entered, the way immediately closes, and there is no further contact. What does the Church of the Second High Talk know that we don't? 05-6 wonders. He continues monitoring the situation and looking for answers. Suddenly a message comes through all Foundation channels. It is coming from the sun. It is not SCP-1548. Instead, it is SCP-179, the humanoid permanently in space near the sun. 179 sends out one clear word in its signal: defend. Who is SCP-179 talking to? 05-6 thinks. What needs to be defended? Is it humanity? Our solar system? The universe? Another alarm begins to go off. What now? 05-6 screams. He brings up the alert. The screen flashes to the moon. 05-6 focuses in on where the alert is coming from. It is a Foundation base called Area 32. What remains left of the base is reporting that SCP-2821 suddenly expanded in size, formed a wormhole that led to another region of the universe, and then vanished through it, taking 38 Foundation members and 10 anomalies with it. Sirens continue to go off. Distress signals are being picked up on every channel. It seems as if the world is coming to an end, and everything that is happening is somehow connected to SCP-1548. A static-filled transmission begins coming in from SCP-3417. The words are urgent. All Artuthans here. All Artuthans must listen now. The stars are lost. Static breaks up the transmission for a few moments before it resumes. Ago, the first invasion occurred. The gods were unprepared, never comprehending the fragility of the universe after its creation. The worlds must fight. The transmission cuts off. Everything goes silent. A pulsating SCP icon appears on the screen of 05-6's computer. It is the part of the puzzle he has been waiting for. In 1999, the 05 Council unanimously voted to launch a mission called Seraph-1 to explore beyond the heliosphere. And the mission's true purpose was to explore the plausibility of extraterrestrial SCP objects in space. The message that 05-6 just received is from Seraph-1. It is relaying information back to Earth. The video shows the barrier of ionized radiation that SCP-1548 had created glowing orange at the border of the heliopause. The radioactive wall seems to be made up of complex geometric patterns, around 6,000 miles across. Seraph-1 accelerates towards the barrier. It smashes through the protective shell. The probe has entered interstellar space. 05-6 knows that everything he is seeing is on a delay, as the information being sent back by Seraph-1 needs to travel vast distances, and it takes significant time for signals to reach Earth. After passing through the ionized barrier, the connection to Seraph-1 is lost. Over the next few days, 05-6 tries to link the anomalies happening in the solar system to SCP-1548. The Foundation still hasn't concluded if 1548 is harmful or trying to protect the solar system in some way. Then a message comes in from Seraph-1. It has briefly regained communication with the Foundation. Most of the probe's instruments have been destroyed, but its rear-facing camera is still broadcasting. 05-6 pulls up the feed. He stares at the screen in horror as the images unfold before him. The camera captures swarms of unknown entities surrounding the heliopause. The bodies of the entities are asymmetrical, with countless appendages and unknown structures jutting out from their cores. They seem to range in size from 10 kilometers to 10,000 kilometers across, although some seem so large that their size can only be hypothesized. The swarms crash into the protective barrier that SCP-1548 has created around the solar system. Each time part of the swarm rams the barrier, thousands of thaumaturgic symbols and solar flares appear at the point of impact. Two entities that are later classified as 1548 Omega-1 and 1548 Omega-2 are captured entering the solar system by Seraph 1's camera. Video from Seraph 1 shows that as the probe exited through the protective barrier, it created a hole that remained open for a few moments. During the time that the shield of ionized radiation was vulnerable, 1548-Omega-1 and 1548-Omega-2 entered through it. They are now inside the solar system. SCP-1548 launches countermeasures in the form of glowing red sigils that create shockwaves to slow down Omega-1 and Omega-2. Omega-1 is shaped like an eel with 5 contorted arms radiating from its body and a mouth made of impossible geometric shapes. Omega-2 has a tetrahedral structure that leaves a trail of black rocks in its wake. As the two entities move towards the sun, SCP-1548 becomes more active. It closes the hole in the barrier before any other creatures of the swarm can enter, and then launches hundreds of concentrated blasts of thalamic energy at Omega-2. The flares vaporize the entity in seconds. The last thing the video feed of Seraph-1 captures before it cuts out is Omega-1 disappearing from view as it creeps towards the center of the solar system. It has escaped the protective measures of SCP-1548. After the O5 Council reviews the footage, they decide to deploy the SCP's Cortana to intercept Omega-1. The orbital vessel is fully equipped with experimental anomalous weapons and propulsion systems. The Council is sure that the Cortana will be able to destroy Omega-1. Data coming in from other satellites indicate that Omega-1 has destroyed Pluto and other Kuiper Belt objects. It is slowly making its way to the center of the solar system, annihilating everything in its path. The Cortana intercepts Omega-1 near Jupiter and engages the creature. After 10 minutes reviews the footage, they decide to deploy the SCP's Cortana to intercept Omega-1. The orbital vessel is fully equipped with experimental anomalous weapons and propulsion systems. The Council is sure that the Cortana will be able to destroy Omega-1. Data coming in from other satellites indicate that Omega-1 has destroyed Pluto and other Kuiper Belt objects. It is slowly making its way to the center of the solar system, annihilating everything in its path. The Cortana intercepts Omega-1 near Jupiter and engages the creature. After 10 minutes of battling, communication with the ship is lost. Probes in the area capture footage of the Cortana and Omega-1 in mid-battle, when they are suddenly surrounded by a black substance and both vanish from sight. O5-6 and the other council members watch in anticipation, unsure of what has just happened. Then the black substance dissipates. The SCP's Cortana sits motionless in space. The entity is nowhere to be seen. A cheer erupts from the Overseers and Foundation members in the room. It seems the entity has been defeated. Then, without warning, the Cortana accelerates rapidly. It is on a collision course with Mars. As the ship hurtles past one of the probes in the asteroid belt, the Foundation members see an organic mass resembling that of Omega-1 attached to the hull of the ship. The Overseer 15 miles wide. The energy released from the impact instantly ionizes the thin atmosphere of Mars, causing the surface to turn into molten rock. From the epicenter of the impact crater, a black organic mass begins to crawl across the planet. The Overseers are frozen in fear, but SCP-1548 immediately deals with the entity that is devouring the surface of Mars. From the Sun comes the largest SCP-1548 instance ever recorded. A solar flare is jettisoned towards Mars. The impact causes a fusion reaction so intense that for a moment, Mars shines as brightly as the Sun. The planet explodes. Its debris is cast across the solar system. Over time, it will create a second asteroid belt in the orbit that Mars once inhabited. The Overseer Council is now convinced that the threat has been dealt with. SCP-1548 is holding the swarm at bay outside of the solar system, at least for the moment. O5-6 returns to his office. He brings up the file on SCP-1548. He is still unsure of this SCP's true intentions. It seems to be protecting humanity, but why? O5-6 sits back in his chair and scrolls to the end of the file. There is an update to the file by O5-3, something that wasn't there before. O5-6 opens the new entry and reads the caption, "All that's left of our infinite, ever-expanding universe." O5-6 scrolls down. The image is a picture taken by Seraph 1 before contact was lost forever. It is a picture of all that remains of the universe. There are 2 dots of light, and nothing else but blackness. The swarm has destroyed everything in the universe, except for those 2 faraway stars, and our own solar system, which was protected by SCP-1548. But how long can it hold out against a universe-destroying force? Only time will tell. Now go check out SCP-2935-O Death and SCP-2000 for more tales of an apocalyptic scale from the SCP Foundation.
Viewer discretion is advised. In a long-range surprise attack by a robotic mortar, 2241 became enraged and caught a mortar bomb before throwing it back to the launcher at approximately 1.4 times the speed of sound. Hello everybody, I'm the Rubber. Today, we bring you SCP Foundation, Euclid Class Object, SCP-2241. SCP-2241, also known as Cameron the Crusader, is a 7-year-old, brown-haired boy who possesses minor telekinetic abilities. Additionally, he is also showing signs of a latent reality-bending ability. 2241 is to be kept in a standard humanoid containment cell, so that the SCP Foundation can learn to understand his powers and use them to develop more superheroes. To be specific, 2241 is able to manipulate objects he can see and those that are within approximately 6 meters of him. In addition to this, manipulated objects may teleport or become slightly altered, implying a more general reality-bending ability. To the Foundation, 2241 is considered a good candidate for long-term or intensive research into telekinesis, reality-bending specifically, and anomalous humanoids generally. In his containment cell, 2241 is to be allowed access to television and comic books, but may be denied access to said items as punishment if required. As his cooperation is considered essential to long-term containment, personnel are to call 2241 by his given name, Cameron. Currently, the leading theory among Foundation researchers is that 2241 will develop stronger or additional anomalous abilities as he ages. As such, it is considered essential to long-term containment and research that 2241 believes he is working with the Foundation, and that the Foundation is a safe place for him. Below is a video log documenting the events while researcher Valdez was trying to gain 2241's trust. Cameron, can you tell me what was happening when the fire team found you? Fire team? You mean the soldier guys? That's right. I was trying to help that lady. Why were you helping her? She looked scared. The bad guy had a gun. She was trying to run away. Someone had to help her. But why did you have to help her? Why not run and call the police? Superheroes have to help people. I can move things without touching them, and other people can't. So I should use that to help them. That's very good of you, Cameron. Have you helped anyone else like this? No, I've only ever practiced, like in the woods and stuff. Has anyone ever caught you practicing? I don't think so. I try to keep it secret, but sometimes people go for walks in the woods and they might have seen me, but I don't think so. Okay, that's good. What kinds of things can you do? I can move stuff without touching it, but not if it's too far away, or if it's too big. Only like a cup across a room, or a person's arm or something. Sometimes it can kind of change as well. What do you mean by change, Cameron? Sometimes when I'm moving something, it changes into something I want. Like one time when I was moving a stone, it turned into a toy that I lost. But it changed back after a while, before I even got home. Have you ever changed something on purpose? Not really. Sometimes when I hear my parents yelling, I wish they'd stop and get distracted for a little bit. But they usually go back to arguing. Do your parents fight often? No, not really. They don't mean to be angry. Do they ever get angry at you? Sometimes. Daddy says it's my fault. I should just try harder. Mommy gets mad when my room is messy, but I try to keep it clean. I don't want her to be mad. It's okay, Cameron. You're okay here. Thank you. You know, ordinary people wouldn't understand these powers. and some other people with powers might try to hurt you. Yeah, heroes have to have a secret identity. Did you have a superhero name to protect your identity? I'm Cameron the Crusader. That's a cool name, Cameron. Because of this danger, you're going to be staying here with the SCP Foundation for a while. Do you have any questions? What does SCP mean, mister? It means secure, contain, protect. So it fights bad guys, like S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Avengers. That's right, Cameron, like the Avengers. 2241 appears to trust researcher Valdez and believes that the Foundation is attempting to help him as much as possible. 2241 may have experienced abuse at the hands of his parents, leading to the possibility of developing into a full-scale reality bender.
Pretty the coastline, there ain't no mistaking. Taser makes primo, Drake's favorite bender!
Following several recent rounds of O5-approved rapid-fire testing with innocent bystanders and 2241's personal belongings, 2241 has developed many further abilities consistent with reports of late-stage telekinetic reality benders. 2241 can now consistently teleport itself along with other matter. Additionally, it can act upon information received from several seconds in the future, and move or transform matter within 12 meters without directly viewing it. Hitherto unrecorded abilities such as self-duplication are also present. In a test, 2241 appeared to absorb the energy of a bomb at the time of detonation. This mechanism is not well understood, but is believed to be a transformation of kinetic energy to some form of equivalent potential energy. Furthermore, the Foundation had also discovered a bomb within 2241's personal belongings. After the discovery, 2241 became enraged and teleported the bomb a great distance into the sky before it detonated. He took some time to calm down, repeatedly exclaiming, "No one can take my things. It's not fair. I'm strong. I'm the Crusader." One time, 2241 was found stealing a box from the Foundation-modified bank vault. 2241 managed to teleport in, take the box, and slow down the Foundation sensors after tripping them before they could transmit emotion detection. This was only discovered upon later analysis. For this clear violation of causality, 2241 expressed no concern about his activities of dubious morality, a clear change from the day he spoke with researcher Valdez. In a long-range surprise attack by robotic mortar, 2241 became enraged and caught a mortar bomb before throwing it back to the launcher at approximately 1.4 times the speed of sound. 2241 is clearly less precise in his abilities and more violent when angry. I hate them. I'm a Foundation Avenger and I hate the bad guys, and I'm gonna fight them all. In another test, 2 civilians were held hostage in rooms connected with a bulletproof glass window by enemies with guns. 2241 was informed of these impenetrable windows, and that the hostages could not be teleported without physical contact. To rescue the 2 hostages, he duplicated himself and teleported both hostages to the Foundation command post simultaneously before returning to capture both enemies. 2241 reported nausea afterward, but no other ill effects. For the final test, researcher Valdez wished to implant a monitoring chip into 2241 in order to control his abilities and manipulate him into helping the Foundation. However, the Ethics Committee and a few O5 councils disagreed with the action. Implanting a monitoring chip into a child this young cannot be done without significant developmental damage in later years. This will cause catastrophic problems for both the child and long-term containment, given his well-developed capabilities. Additionally, deploying a child in combat, even under testing conditions, violates all moral norms. These tests are more important than one SCP regardless of whether it looks like a child. We now know which parts of the brain deal with certain anomalous abilities. With more detail, we can see how. We may even learn how to induce these abilities, and we will definitely learn how to neutralize them. I believe the results will justify both the risks and the means. We are closer than ever to understanding the mechanism by which human brains interact with extra-normal phenomena. In addition, due to the new modification of the monitoring hardware, 2241 can be neutralized quickly should it become a threat at any time after the surgery. Testing reinstated by majority overseer vote following emergency council meeting. Researcher Valdez exonerated. Testing will go ahead, assuming no complications. Remember to check out my new animation channel, The Rubber Talks, where I share my life story, thoughts, and opinions. Just click on the link in the description to enter the Rubber's world. Before we end this video, we are proud to present these incredibly sweet pieces of fan art. A big thank you to...
Meet Trevor Hawthorne, now known as D4651. On the outside, he was an armed robber who murdered 2 people during a convenience store shootout in Texas. But now, since being condemned to death, he's been picked up for D-class testing by the SCP Foundation. Now also meet junior researcher Dr. Julia Reed, an aspiring Foundation scientist with an undiagnosed heart condition. The kind of heart condition that doesn't mix well with a high-pressure job at the SCP Foundation. These 2 woke up on the morning of December 6th, 2011, completely unaware of the fact that they were only hours away from causing one of the most devastating containment breaches Site-19 had seen in years. Many people died that day, but thankfully for everyone else, SCP-131 were there to save the day. When you think of a hero, you probably don't picture a pair of little cyborgs with one eye and the intelligence of a household cat. But this is the tale of how 2 of the most unassuming anomalies at Site-19 managed to save thousands of people from 2 of the site's most dangerous inmates. Open your eyes and keep them open. If you so much as blink, it's all over for you. How long can you hold it? Difficult, right? Now imagine you're having a staring contest with an entity that can kill you if you dare to blink for even a fraction of a second. Or even worse, a creature that could potentially kill hundreds or even thousands of people if your attention drifts from it for any amount of time. Try keeping your eyes open with that kind of crushing pressure. We're talking about 2 of the most deadly Euclid and Keter class anomalies out there. SCP-173, the Killer Sculpture, a violent Euclid class entity that is incapable of moving while being looked at. If ever it's unobserved, it'll snap the neck of anyone nearby. SCP-689, known as Haunter in the Dark, is an equally dangerous and even more attention-demanding statue. These 2 entities are beyond dangerous. Even SCP-682 is terrified of the Killer Sculpture, and researchers have been considering the use of 689 to potentially eliminate the hard-to-destroy reptile for quite some time. Their greatest concern, though, is whether the 30-centimeter-tall statue would cause too much collateral damage to Foundation personnel in the process.
Let's head to bed, I guess. May as well. It's 9 AM. Just another day in the Foundation. Hopefully soon I'll help my dad and yeah, we'll destroy the world. Pretty much, hopefully. But until that day, I'm stuck here in the Foundation.
So good. Drink driving,